So we are going to continue with our program with a really exciting presentation. I'm really excited to hear this lady speak. She has done all kinds of things, fabulous things. And she goes by CK. And she actually asked me to cut her bio down because she is so committed and dedicated to this information, she wants to get it to you. But I am going to share, share a little bit. No, I'm going to share a little bit. People need to hear this, okay? So Christina Kerley, Miss CK right here, guides Fortune 500s through 10 plus tech dominating for the past 10 years. She is praised for her energy and her theatrical style. She has worked with a number of industries. I'll just name a few. Verizon, Johnson & Johnson, Microsoft, Amazon, TEDx, E-Trade, the United Nations, Bissell, Best Buy, Cisco, Prudential, and many, many more. She's also a part-time professor at Rutgers University. She is not only a busy lady, she is extremely brilliant in everything that she does. She has her website, allthingsck.com. It is my pleasure to introduce you to the fabulous CK.
Thank you. Part-time professor, full-time geek, loud and proud, as we are in a digital renaissance of amazing proportions, you know. I just first want to say two things. Amara for president, yes? I'm like, I have to follow this. Second, I want to say hello to everyone coming in remotely. Third, I want to thank crew because they're amazing and they're always the unsung heroes of an event. So can we please give a round of applause to crew who make sure that we're heard and seen. Fourth, I'm going to give a lot of pro tips during this session, but the first one I want to start off with, for all of us here that are moving from sweats, #all the time, to actual clothes, may I say a wrap dress is a good in-between. It's just like Lycra, it makes sense, and all of you at home, I know you're still in sweats, I get it, but a wrap dress works. So my job is tech of the next 10, 20, 30, 40 years and mega trends, and I'm going to go through some of that. The good news is for project managers, there's a heck of a lot more disruption, innovation, and digital renaissance coming that needs to be managed. Anyone and everyone that is good at managing complexity and chaos will do extraordinarily well through the 20s, 30s, and 40s, and you can quote me on that. But the second thing is that while I do all this tech, I have found that what I really do well, or get told I do well, is to motivate people around this change and to get them to open up, because change can be scary. Just a show of hands, who here would like to make $75,000 more this year? You like change. See? It's just the type of change. And it's the way we understand it, and it's the way we go about it. But I can say this. We are in a time of constant change where the next 30 years will see more change of more magnitude than the past 300, but we're also in a time of constant reinvention. And when we first say reinvention, or as I say, refresh, it seems scary. But we've been reinventing our whole lives. We're not the same person that we were at 10 or 15 or 20 or 25 or 30. I wouldn't know, I'm not a day over 26. Or 40 or 50. It's not really that different to us. It just seems like it. And I love what Robin Sharma says, and I'm going to mess up the quote a little bit, so I apologize. He says that change is hard at the beginning, really messy in the middle, and so gorgeous at the end. And it's so, so true. So when I talk about change, the first thing that I look at is why in the heck would a next-gen tech speaker be talking about reinvention, and it really comes down to this, and I need to humble myself, and I asked to keep the bio short for that reason, because I just hate speaking about myself, but this I want to impart to you. I started speaking, educating, consulting 25 years ago. For the youngins here, this is before side hustles was a thing. This is before people were freelancing full time. So I actually had to do it for survival. Because I'm a scrappy little nothing with a nano business. My entire business is up at stage right now. I had to figure out how to, one, get the attention of companies, and when I went in there, to have them actually listen to me. So I had to figure out how to get ahead, how to stand out so much noise. And there's so much more noise today, so I continually reinvent, right? Give signal, and to be really relevant. And I found that if I shared my passion, my geeking out about all this change in technology, and if I taught them something, they would listen. And they'd listen for quite a while. I would joke with them. I'd say, you know, I came with 2 decks today. The first deck is 35 slides on the greatness of me and 5 slides on the future of the next 10 years. The second deck is 35 slides on the future and 5 slides about me. Which one would you like today? So that's a way that I had survival. But all of a sudden, I did it enough. From apps to algorithms, internets to outernets, devices to data, robots to cobots, you name it. I found out it was a good strategy to keep them coming back and to keep being able to educate. So for me, it was really about survival, and I never really thought about it as a strategy, but I spend 50%, 50% of my time where you are right now, learning. Always taking online classes, listening to audiobooks, you know, during the commute time, and 50% of my time teaching. You know, I say the reason that I personally don't write books on what I know is because I need to be reading and absorbing what I don't know so I can crystallize it for you. So that's how I continually reinvent. And I'm going to show you guys, gals, non-binary pals, I'm going to show everyone a 4-step roadmap that has really worked for me. Now, I do have slides, and they are dense in content because I like to make a little book for you that you can go back to and reaffirm after the piece. And I believe you'll begin getting slides over the next 24 hours. So first and foremost, this is one of my favorite quotes. Life isn't about finding yourself. How does the rest of the quote go? For a gold star. Life isn't about finding yourself. Please. It's about being yourself. Do I have any other takers? Knowing yourself. Creating yourself. Life isn't about finding yourself. It's about creating yourself. But you know what success is about? It's about reinventing or recreating yourself. And it's so exciting, and it doesn't matter the age. I hear so much, this is a young person's game. I didn't start a speaking career, heck, I didn't even think I'd be a speaker. I totally fell into this at 41. I just got engaged. My father was like, hell has frozen over at 51. And the best thing is, the nice guy finished first. Fact of the matter is, I'm constantly reinventing, and I've found that the middle is the best darn part so far. With the exception of menopause, that stuff is bullshit. Okay, like why can't we get a tech to take care of that, an AI? But folks, it doesn't matter the age. It matters the passion, it matters the relevance. I reskill executives for a living. And what we do is we do week-long classes where they come in and they learn about these technologies and they buff up on skills. It's perfect over at Rutgers. And at the end of the week, the most beautiful thing I hear is that I'm no longer scared. I'm excited. And most important, I feel relevant. And I go, enjoy it. and keep up with it. And I tell all my students, which are executives, I say the most important thing that will happen inside this classroom, inside this class, won't happen in this week. It will happen as you go forward, as you prioritize learning, as you prioritize reinventing, and as you stay in touch with all your colleagues. Because the future and the present are really, really busy, and we need each other more than ever. Okay, newsflash. This isn't the new normal. Who here has heard the term so many times in the last 17 months that we have a new normal? You know what I'm talking about? You feel me? Okay, newsflash, this isn't the new normal. Sorry. It's just the newest of normals in a non-stop decade of disruptions and revolutions. Now, there's two ways to look at this. Holy or, you know what? Bring it on, because if I get relevant, if I stay relevant, if I reinvent, this is a way to get ahead that is a once-in-a-generation opportunity, okay? So it's the newest. The other thing I want to say is, spoiler alert, digital transformation. Has everyone heard, if I had a dime for every time I heard the term digital transformation, right? Has everyone heard the term digital transformation, digital pivot? Okay. That connotes that there's a destination to it, right? That we're gonna become transformed. Sorry, folks. The mega trends, the technologies, the amazing things we're going through, the innovations, the disruptions, these are scores and scores of years changing, well through the 2020s and 2030s. So actually, digital transformation, it really is an ongoing journey. And it's important to understand that. Once we get through one digital transformation, we will add to that. But it's important to understand that. As project managers, understanding that will increase your salary because it will increase your worth to the world. Whether you are inside your organization, talking to your boss about your annual review, or you're interviewing for a new job, to be able to educate that interviewer is amazing. Don't just answer their questions, but let them know, I love digital transformation. Actually, it's digitally transforming. And they'll be like, what do you mean? This is what I do through my pro bono work. I work with a lot of kids and young adults that are overlooked and underrepresented, and I show them these technologies and how they can leverage these in under a year of learning for under $3,000 to get a starting salary of $45,000, $50,000. Folks, we are in a time, if we can leverage this change and invent around it, that you will increase your worth. Maybe you'll get that 50, 75, 100K next year. Remember your pal CK when you do. That's all I ask. So, why do I not call this a recovery, but a reinvention? This is why. We have an explosion of technologies, right? Not 5, not 10, not 15, many, many more. We have endless learning curves, right? We have many new normals, and as I just stated, we have ongoing digital transformation. You know what we are? I use the metaphor that we're like little GPS units, recalculating, because we're always finding new ways. So at this time, for all companies in all the world, because we've been focused on one really big problem with the pandemic, we have a mandate for reinvention. So the thing is, we're all going through this. So like we said, I love how we're saying we're lifting, a rising tide lifts all boats. We are all going through this together, and we can support one another. Trust me, there's room for all of us, because you're gonna find later in the presentation, we're about to go through a really big talent drought, which means it is a buyer's market, baby. You are in demand, you are valuable, and you're able to use that. Trust me, I work with AIs and robots and cobots, and they do what they do well, but they can't do what we do well. For example, isn't it so nice, giddy even, to be together again in person? A robot can't do that, but they sure can do math well. Yay. Okay, folks, why the heck am I calling it refresh? I like to look at technology from the humanity side because Spoiler alert, it's there to help us. Technology always was. It wasn't to take the lead or to interrupt us. It was to enable and empower us to do, wait for it, more human tasks. All this automation that everyone's freaking out about, folks, it's going to do a lot of the busy work so you can work at the top of your talents. Wouldn't that be better? So every single profession can. Heck, if AI can make us better chess players, because it's not the AIs that won the chess the best, or it wasn't the humans, it was human with AI help. So if AIs and all these technologies can make us better chess players, they can make us better doctors, better marketers, better teachers, better speakers, better project managers. Make sense? Okay. Refresh has a twofold definition. The first one is very much around humanity, giving new strength or energy to, reinvigorate. And the second, an act or function of updating, like you update the screen. Just like we update as GPS units, we're going to be updating this whole time. And you know what? It's going to keep us young and fresh and really, really valuable and feeling really relevant. It'll actually help that imposter syndrome because you'll continue to be refreshed, updated. Now, there's a 4-part methodology that I'm going to go through. And the goal is always to get ahead, not just adapt. I love that we should adapt. Actually, adapt is really passive to me. I want to find a way to get my clients, my students, my colleagues, my pro bono kids ahead. I want them to be able to leapfrog, not just adapt, to stand out and to stay relevant. I am from New York, now from Southern California too, so I am from fast-paced NYC and slow Cal. It's a lot to adapt to, but you know what? I'm enjoying both because I'm getting the best of all worlds with it. And I have a lot of clients ask me, CK, what's your biggest value? Especially in New York, they always try this. What problem do you solve? And I say it's the same thing. I keep you relevant. Why does that matter? It matters because in the same business quarter that Kodak went down, Instagram was bought for $2.1 billion. It matters because Netflix, we all love Netflix, a digital darling if ever there were one. But in 20 years, they have had to renew and reinvent their business model just to stay relevant. How many times? Let's count. Back in '98, Netflix used to send DVDs by mail. How quaint. That was one. What was their second business model or refresh? It was actually through streaming content, right? Because now they were able to stream content. But then they reinvented again. What was the third way they reinvented? Their own content. Now, we expect a new awesome, bingeable show every single week. And don't give me the BS that you're only going to give me 3. Oh, no, oh, no, oh, no, oh, no. We want what we want when we want it. So that was third. What are they doing now? It's really fascinating. They are buying up movie theaters. One, because then they can say they've had a theatrical run, so they can be eligible, right, for awards. But two, they know people are going to want to get together, and they are getting these theaters all over in big cities for a song right now. I think the fifth way they'll have to reinvent is probably through holography and the like, when that becomes more affordable, but we'll see. But if a digital darling that everyone loves, valued amazingly, has to reinvent at least 4 times in 20 years, that means we all do. And it's exciting to see. So with Refresh, I look at 4 steps I'm going to take you through. The first of which is reassessing. We got to start, and I love that you're taking it down, and you're going to get this deck too. The first one is that we're going to assess what the heck has changed and what we need to do to change, which is really obvious. I know it's obvious, but it's the hardest step. And the reason it's the hardest step is because when we look at what we need to change, there's that emotion that goes with it and the heart, and we're freaking out. It's like it's such a big hill and mountain to climb. But it's not. We need to understand that the bigger the change, I swear this, the bigger the rewards, because a lot of people won't take the next step, which we go from the analytical to the creative. Reimagine. You're going to hear this word a lot. Folks, creativity, and a lot of people call it a soft skill. I have case studies to show you. Creativity controls and helps you reshape the future. In a time when everything is a blank page, in a time, pandemics, disruptions, revolutions, oh my, right? In a time of this, with reimagining and that creativity, that gives you back control because you're not waiting for things to happen. You're actually reshaping the future. Then we go to reskilling. We are in a reskilling movement. I've been in it for 25 years, and I feel like I am literally just getting started. There is so much ahead of us, and there's so many exciting ways to reskill. When I was starting out, there was no Coursera, there were no hybrid events, there were no audiobooks, there were hardly anything besides events, maybe once a year or twice a year. But reskilling is now a way, and lifelong learning is now a way to be your lifelong competitive advantage, both through work and carving out time on your own to make it a priority. That doesn't mean you need to take 2 full-time jobs. It means you need to make it a priority. I look at pockets of time when I can reskill, and I also look at the amount of time I binge Netflix, and I think, I could do a third of time to put that back into my pocket. It's an investment in us, okay? And fourth, the culmination of all steps to reinvent. I say invent, period, reinvent, period, repeat. And it becomes just a matter of course. All generations going forward, they will find this absolutely natural to do. It won't be an extra thing. It will be a way to not only stay relevant and stay informed, but to always increase their value to their industry, to their jobs, and to open up so many opportunities. So let's start with reassess. Reassessing is when we're getting really real about what's changed and needs changing. The good, the bad, the ugly, the different, you name it. And by doing this, you're getting really analytical. I find it helps to look inward and go through it, and then to work with colleagues and teams to really reassess where your industry is going, how roles have changed. I'll show the questions you need to ask. What processes need to be optimized? Heck, what processes need to be canceled altogether? When I'm working in automation, I say the first rule of automation, do not automate a bad process. I'm like Fight Club. The second rule of automation, do not automate a bad process. You know, we think we are in a time of change, but we're actually in a time where management and industries are more open to change than they ever have been. And the reason being is this, and I'll repeat this, because change gives us a way forward. In a time when it's like, who moved my cheese factory, not just my cheese, that old book from 50 years ago. Management, companies, industries are more open to change than they have been in our lifetime, because change and new processes, new ways, give them a path forward. So with reassessing, I find that transformations, revolutions, and indeed reinventions are as much about changing mindsets as they are about evolving skill sets. I'm going to get to skill sets later. And mindsets, everyone says, oh, that's such a soft skill. Actually, that's the hardest thing to change. But that's the big area. And you'll find the difference between a company that makes it or breaks it and doesn't do well is how they've evolved their mindset. For example, Netflix didn't take out Blockbuster because they undercut them by price. they changed their mindset and they evolved for how entertainment would be consumed in the digital age. So it really is as much about mindsets as skill sets, and mindsets first. So areas that you need to assess. First and foremost, what the heck just happened? It's fast forward what happened. We just had a major collective trauma with COVID. And the odd thing is, I call it the pandemic paradox. At the same time, it paused all of our activities, right? It actually accelerated trends, especially technological trends, and it compressed timelines. We were already having compressed timelines. Heck, it took humans 40 years to adopt radio mainstream, at least 20 years for TV. Mobile, 5 years, right? AI, you cannot go a day without hearing about AI. And in fact, AI wasn't mentioned so much 5 years ago, folk. So here we found that the pandemic has truly accelerated all these trends, which is busy on your job. I get it. And it's broken through bureaucratic barriers. But here's the big thing. What I ask companies and clients is if we use specific processes and we broke through a lot of bureaucracy because we had to move fast during the pandemic, why in the heck are we going back to it after the pandemic? We don't need to. We can reassess. Right now, it's much more adopted for telemedicine, right? I still need to see my doctor, but a lot of things that I can call in and talk to him about can be through telemedicine. We're looking at most doctor's visits, and we'll have more as a result. Here's the thing. Becoming 85% of visits by 2030. Actually, I bet it'll be 2025. Why? Pandemic. Telecommuting, what they call work from home, or I just say, you're not really working from home so much as you just never stop working, right? Work from home. But here's what's interesting. Everyone was asking me about the dang future of work. Now it's the future of the workplace. So we're finding that we're much more open. Entertainment. If you had told me that the Trolls movie would have changed entertainment for the rest of our lives, I would have asked you what you were smoking, because that may be some good stuff. And you know what? It's legal here in Colorado. We're waiting for New York. Okay, folks, good on you. Listen, entertainment, I don't have to, in my hotel right now, say what movies can I watch that were just in theaters, because I know they're going to be available to me within 30 days from now on. Again, things have changed and changed fast. So that's one assessment. But we need to look at questions to ask, and I've included these so you'll have them. What all has changed and how, right? How has our industry changed? How have our timelines changed? How have our mindsets changed? Here's the most important one. How have our customers changed? Whether it's technology or anything else, it is always about the customer. When I teach on mobile and the Internet of Things, I explain it's not how we've changed to mobile. It's how mobile has changed us. Higher expectations, no patience whatsoever. We want what we want when we want it. New behaviors altogether. What are the businesses that are succeeding now because of hyperconnectivity? They're the ones that align around customer expectations. They are the Ubers, you know? There you go, what I want for an Uber. I can actually watch the Uber come to me, and I do on my phone. Why do I do that? Because I can. Grubhub, same thing. Tinder, listen, when it wasn't Mr. Right, maybe Mr. Right now, okay? I waited till 51 to get, engaged, so there was that. But the thing is, what has changed and how? Second, what have we tried, wait for it, that's worked? We keep forgetting to ask, what the heck has worked? And how can we keep that going? And third, what problems have emerged that are now priorities? Know this far and wide, and shame on us for it happening, but shame on us if we do not remediate it. That pandemic didn't create most of the problems. It revealed them. It revealed them. Infrastructure crumbling, poor communications, not using 21st century tech to eliminate a 21st century problem, broken supply chains. Folks, so many of the problems that happened over the past year were revealed. So I've included questions that go deep into this for you. Things like, how have our assumptions changed? How have our customers changed? You may have the same customers, but just like us, they have different needs. They have different priorities. They have different wants. And things like, what did we place too much importance on that we need to now? One thing I can tell you for sure, especially being in tech, we were so focused on efficiency that we forgot about resiliency and quality. And so much failed as a result. We had a toilet paper shortage, folks. We had things that should not happen in a superpower and a highly developed country. So we have to look at things like, how has my role changed, right? Or how does it need to change? This is the time, this is where you set the precedent. Even if you've worked for the same company for 15 years, this is where you set the precedent and say, this is what I've learned. This is how it needs to change and why. Are our existing strategies still even relevant? Here's one. Digital used to be a sales channel. Now it's the entire business model. So folks, these are the things to look at and really understand what has changed and how. This is a huge opportunity for you. It's also a huge opportunity for those who are in transition. Is anyone here in transition? I'm always in transition. I'm always unemployed and reemployed by companies, right? This is something that you educate the interviewer on and say, you know what? I'm looking for a company that I can really grow with, but one thing I've learned over the last year, and to make this truly resilient with our teams, especially since we ain't seen nothing yet, because this gal in Geek CK said that more is going to change over 2020 than the last 300 years, right? But what it comes down to is to explain what processes need to be changed, optimized, or canceled altogether. Did I tell you the one about don't automate bad processes? I'm just checking on. Okay, folks, then we have to look at what if we tried and done that has worked. I can tell you one. Some meetings do not need to be in person, and they don't even need to be on Zoom. They just need to be an email. Do you feel me? Do you feel me here? Okay. Also, nothing replaces face-to-face. But when I can't, remote learning. Also, education. We should be watching the teacher's lecture. Do I have any parents here that help with kids' homework? Okay, you're gonna love this one. We should be watching the lecture from the teacher as homework, our kids. And then we should be doing the homework in class with the teacher and the classmates, because that's when we need the most help. That's one thing we have learned. We need to flip that model and flip that business model. But here, I would ask the group, what did you try during the pandemic that actually worked well? Anything? Please. And I'll repeat.
What was that?
I said I'll repeat, because
okay.
the microphone and all that, yeah.
I started doing live broadcasts, and I actually went to a co-working space in Denver because my bandwidth at home wasn't enough.
Yep. So, started doing a live broadcast and going to a co-working space because the bandwidth wasn't strong enough. That's actually something we need to remediate on the bandwidth. But the co-working space was better for you, getting out of home and going to a co-worker space?
No, I would have preferred to stay home.
Yeah.
But I didn't like getting kicked out of a live broadcast that I was presenting.
Yeah, that's not
not a
good.
good look.
So that's something that needs to change. Actually, for the first time, we have a broadband bill going through Congress right now with support from both sides because it means money. We're finally getting to Probably going to take another couple of years. Also interesting, not fun factoid, but factoid, the World Wide Web ain't. Right now, as I stand up here at stage, only 60% of the world is online. Actually, it's amazing. We came from 30% in 5 years. The nice thing is, by the end of this decade, we'll be at 80%. And by 2035, 100%. We will finally bring a lot online. But in the next 2 years, a big thing in the infrastructure, because it is infrastructure bill, is that we're going to start getting stronger broadband. Who here has something to add about what you've tried that actually worked well during the pandemic and you'd like to continue? Please. Virtual trainings, and they recorded all of them, and it was very well received by the recipients. I love what we're doing here with this hybrid event, allowing in-person and remote, as well as recording, so if we need to go back to reconfirm, we have that. I think it's Verizon that said, you know, in some of our meetings, where some people didn't feel comfortable always speaking up in person, we've actually found, because they could type in or because everyone was at the same table remotely, they actually felt like they had a voice. So there's some things that we've learned that have actually possibly worked well. Most of what I see is all the bureaucracy and being able to be more open and move much faster and continuing that post-pandemic. And then the third area is the problems. We need to look at the problems that the pandemic exposed. Folks, these need to become our new priorities. So one thing we need to tell management, we need to think about in our own careers, or we need to tell interviewers is, we need to make a lot of the problems that the pandemic did not create, but exposed, a priority. We need to go from efficiency to making sure of true resiliency. For example, friction-filled processes, those were laid bare. Broken supply chains, the problems with disinformation and misinformation on the pandemic, as well as political, as well as about companies and the like. Now, there's some solutions coming down the pike from AI and big data on that. I'm not going to go too deeply into that because it's not a tech talk, but this laid bare these problems that already existed, and it amplified them. Also, outdated infrastructure. Remember, we're not just competing blue and red on outdated infrastructure. We need to look at where the world is at. Has anyone gone to like France in the last few years or gone to Asia and seen how far ahead they are on infrastructure and just been like a kid in a candy store with tapping everything with NFC codes and being able to see such seamless processes? It's amazing. Also, drug discovery tech and timetables. We are damn lucky that we got vaccines so fast. It is astonishing. There are 3 reasons that we got vaccines so fast, possibly more. One is we were able to use not just our scientists, but we were also able to use things like AIs that would do a lot of the busy work that freed up our scientists. Second, thank goodness it was a coronavirus because SARS and MERS taught us things and we already had potential drugs in the pipeline. But third, we utilized the most powerful force in human history. What is it? The most powerful force in human history. It's the reason we've gotten so far, by the way. Some would say we don't always use it, but the thing is the reason we've gotten so far. Gander a guess. Humor me. Science. Part of it. Human cooperation. It's not just our brains. It's not just scientists' brains, but it's human cooperation. And what we did was we brought all the scientists from all over the world. We had human cooperation. Actually, why did we do so well with the human genome? Because 1, scientists, 2, human cooperation of scientists, but 3, it was a global effort. And by the way, they came in under budget, you'll like this one, and ahead of schedule. Who the heck does that? Scientist. Did we even send them a gift basket? Anyhow, the point is that we have this human cooperation that had worked that fast and prioritized so well, and that's why we got it in under a year. So it shows where the bureaucracy is. Climate change. I need to just state that I side with the scientists. I believe there's climate change going on. I actually believe there's 2 pandemics that have gone on. One, coronavirus, COVID, and second, our planet has a fever. You want to hear part of what I'm going to reinvent around next? I mean, do you? Yeah? Climate tech. Folks, it's astonishing how we can use these technologies to heal our planet and to create circular economies. A circular economy is not just use it once and it's done. It's use, reuse, make it economically viable, okay, and allow it to be used again. And that's just going to be the natural course. So these priorities, we need to go back to our management, and we need to go to our companies, and we need to look at what are the priorities that were exposed as a result of the pandemic, but that weren't caused by it. So the big point here, I call it changing hearts and mindsets, because mindsets first, is that assessing what has changed and what needs to change is the toughest of steps, because it's like when I go to my accountant and he shows me what I owe the government, and I go, and he goes, CK, take the emotion out of it. It means that you made money. It's just a number. It does help with a side of bourbon, but it really, really helps for me to stop being so emotional about it, or to stop being so emotional about how am I going to get up to speed on this big problem. You take it in little bitty bites. But the more honest we are, the bigger the reward. So first we get analytical. Let's get creative, shall we? Step number 2, reimagine. After we've reassessed, then we need to reimagine, which is beautiful because it helps us. It helps our teams to actually create the future. Most of futurists are actually just creating the future. And they are extrapolating from all these changes with our customers, all of these new technologies, and our imagination, what the new business model should be, what the new product should be, what the new job should be. This is big. This is really big. How will your job change? And in reimagining, it really gives you control over the future. I love this quote because it's so true. History is a long record of rewarding the innovators, but it also punishes the procrastinators. So it's on us to continually innovate. I look at innovation and disruption as 2 sides of the quarter. We can either innovate and create, or we can get disrupted. That's really, it's simplistic, but when you look at it that way, it helps us to see how reimagining is important. So, the mission-critical choice, inaction or innovation. You'll see that all of the broken brands of the past 200 years have either tried to innovate too late, right? Or they've just been the inertia. They haven't moved at all. So, innovation. When you think of innovation, can you tell me what you think of when you think of innovation? What is innovation made of? Change. Say it louder. New. Creativity. Ideas. Nice. By the way, the one thing that only gains value when shared is an idea. It only gains value when it's shared. Same thing with technology. Here's an iPhone, but why is it so valuable? Because of all the apps. Because it was shared. Please.
I was going to say it's just an upgrade, I guess, too.
Upgrade?
Like,
upgrade, update.
Entirely new, we're always building on.
Well played. Are you a fan of recombinant innovation? Recombinant innovation means that you take things that are existing and you reshape or you reorder them, or you can converge or diverge them. For example, World Wide Web, most important innovation of our lifetimes, right? Because it's a gift that keeps on giving. With some politicians, not the gift that keeps on giving, but stay with me, stay with me. Recombinant innovation is actually taking what? A computer, already existed, right? Broadband, hopefully good broadband, right? HTTP, that protocol, right? And then sharing the ideas, all the websites and the like, and creating innovation. So most innovation is actually forming things in new ways. It's either bundling things in new ways or unbundling things in new ways. But I see innovation as technology, right? I'm a tech geek, but that's only part of it, right? It's the imagination. Technology for technologies, folks, technologies are just capabilities. They're wonderful, they're amazing, I geek out over them, I love them, but they're just technologies. The beauty is when we use the imagination to better things, to enable things, to improve things, recombinant. So it's really two parts. So this reimagine is very important, especially in a time when things are changing so fast. And imagination is essential. What I love about this quote is it says all crises contain the seeds of opportunity. Many businesses that are struggling now will find a second or a third life during and after the crisis if they can keep alive and harness their imaginations. Imagination may seem frivolous. What are you doing over there? Daydreaming, right? But actually, imagination is not a frivolous luxury in a crisis. It's actually a necessity. Let me give you some examples. There have not only been pandemics in my lifetimes, right? There have been dot-com bust. Oh, it was so nice in 1999 and 2000, and then 01 came and it was not so nice to be in technology because the dot-com bust. There was a financial crisis, right? There were all of these things, and the winners were the ones who either had their second and third lives or came out of it because they created an entirely new business model. 14% of companies in recessions and downturns actually outperform because they invest in growth. Okay, Apple released the iPod. Anyone here too young to not know what an iPod is? I'm not even kidding. Okay, it was like the iPhone, just music, right? So Apple released its first iPod in 2001. And what's important to understand here is that Apple is a $1 trillion company, but Apple used to be that cute creative company that was in schools and graphic artists, and that's it. They literally had, 5% of the market overall? But then they came out with the iPod in 2001 during a dot-com bust, my friends, right? And that was the same year the recession had a 33% drop in that company's revenue. Again, it didn't have $90 billion on hand. Just the interest for 1 month to have 90. Okay, so folks, Apple released it, and they saw the iPod's ability to transform its product portfolio, and it increased R&D by double digits. Then came the launch of the iTunes Store and new iPod models in 2004, and they kept innovating and they kept innovating. And here's the thing, talk about recombinant innovation. Apple is great, not because they come out with new. They look at things that have not worked and not worked. We've tried tablets for years. We've tried cellular phones. Remember Gordon Gekko, greed is good on the big brick phone, all that. We've tried this for years. They go, now, credit cards, they now go and figure out how to make things better that have failed before. So folks, necessity is an absolute luxury. Look at just during the pandemic, we went from going out and having meals to actually creating meals at home. I had pizzas delivered with dough, sauce, cheese, and we made an activity out of it. Also, who here has enjoyed the quarantine 15, the 15 pounds? I did it twice. I'm not kidding. Wrap dress. Okay, yeah. Okay. Macy's, I was like, I hope my shoes still fit. I'm not kidding. I literally said that. Really, you? Because you look so pretty, and you had the pretty blingy mask earlier, and I was like, I like her, but I really want to look like. Okay, so we'll talk about it after. From a focus on high fashion, Macy's, to home fashion. I moved to Southern, I have a cozy one-bedroom apartment in New York City. Does anyone here know what cozy is code for in New York City? I got killer rent, though. It's small. I find a guy with a 4-bedroom, we don't have kids, not even a chihuahua. I'm like, why do you have such a big house? Space is obviously a Southern California and LA thing, which is great. But he's also a guy that had like a picture or two on the wall for the whole house. I'm a speaker without a stage. I'm a teacher without a classroom. I need a project all of a sudden for the last year. This house is sponsored by Amazon, Wayfair, Walmart, and I just keep painting. I'm about ready to go to the neighbor's house and knock on the door and say, can I do your house next? Thank goodness we're out of this pandemic. But folks, Macy's saw that because we were all focused on home. And I feel so bad for every single husband who's ever told their wife, honey, I'll get to that home project when I have time. Ah, karma, a pandemic. Folks, Uber Eats, from transporting us to transporting food. So the big question is this, when you're reimagining, if the technologies of today were available when we started our business model, how would our models, brands, products, and processes be different? That will help you to reimagine. That's what companies have done that have continually been new. Spoiler alert, Disney, new as ever, and now it's a media property. That's so awesome. Folks, and wasn't Cruella good? Did you guys see Cruella yet? It's amazing. It's really well done. Folks, here's the thing. Disney is not a new company. It's an old world company, 1950s, but doesn't it always seem new? Because it's always asking, how can we change? Nike, 1970s, old brand, but it always seems new. IBM is 100 plus years old, and it's the leader, and should be the leader, in actually the AI race, but everyone came in and the competition started. So that's the big question we ask. And we look at reimagining entire industries, like Netflix has done, or aligning new businesses to new needs. I'll remind us all that all those companies here, Airbnb, they all came out of the financial crisis. We had to get creative. In fact, this last pandemic has done really well for the creator class, because now we have the tools to create, to charge, to promote all of our talents. And then we look at our business in new ways. Here's something interesting. Amazon used to give a service. And the service was you would go on and, no lie, buy books. Real books, physical books, and that's friggin' it. That's how old I am, okay? And then you would wait 2 weeks to get the physical book. And then all of a sudden they sold everything. And they had all of this great service and one-click buy and 2-day service. But it used to be services. Now it's products. Amazon Echo, the Kindle. They've actually changed their model to fly with the times. And then Apple used to be products. MacBook, right? Tablets. Now it has iCloud, music, iTunes. They've gone from products to services. So this is what I'm hitting home. I'm hitting home when we reimagine, we may become like a new business, but it's vibrant and it's always what? Relevant, standing out, right? And getting ahead. This is, again, good news for all y'all, because there's a lot of projects that need to be managed well, that need to get to market fast, and we cannot sacrifice resiliency and quality for efficiency. So here, Creativity controls the future because it allows us to reshape. Think of it this way. Through imagination, you're not adapting passively, right? You're seeking change. You are literally actively seeking to a new world. You are reshaping the future and your place within it. All these technologies, all these changes are not setting you back. They're giving you the tools and the questions to ask to reimagine. What does my future want to be? How do I get there? Reskilling. Used to be, way back, we'd go to college. Then we'd go out into the workforce for it was so scientific, 3 to 5 years to make sure you want to be in that industry, and then you go back and you get your MBA. And then you supplement with professional credits and the like. But now, lifelong learning and reskilling is ongoing. Because again, there's so much change. So this reskilling that's happening in companies, that's happening on our own, that's happening in associations, whether in person, remote, or both, is now a lifelong learning becoming an advantage. Google now for free offers certificates, and it views them in the same light as a 4-year degree because they really need the people. Amazon has started with, lifelong learning, and this is on top of your existing knowledge, right? So all these companies are waking up to how important a reskilling movement is. So I look at it this way. Disruption needn't be dystopian. Not at all. It opens us up when we reskill, when we upskill, to developing new processes, new tech, and new skills. Because of what I said earlier, leadership and executives are more open to change when the movement of the market is going so fast, or we're coming off of a pandemic, because change gives them a path forward. Now is the best time for you to go to your bosses and your execs and say, I'm going to need to be able to have a budget to reskill, and here's why. Or we need to make reskilling core to part of the company. A lot of people out in the job market are asking the question, what is your policy on reskilling, retraining, and upskilling? Because it's as important as a salary. Why? Because it invests in us to make sure we are always at an advantage. So why reskilling? This is my favorite quote. It's by my friend Jackie. She goes by Jax. She said it, and it just hit it home so beautifully. Because people are not as easily updated as apps. I wish I came up with this. Folks, we aren't. We need to update and upgrade, refresh, reinvent, but we need to make this a priority. Now, you have a job, right? You have kids. You have other priorities. You need to go to the gym. You need to sleep. Don't wake up at 4 a.m. and do the gym. We found that out earlier, right? How do we make time for this? We make it a priority. We talk to our management teams. We make the argument for that. Now enough companies are doing it that it's weird that your company isn't doing it, say. We also need to figure out a way with our colleagues that we share knowledge. One thing I tell all classes is, do not count on that CK has seen that killer white paper or that new book that came out. Text me, write me, let me know, call me, but let me know what's out there, right? Look at your time. Maybe you commute to work. During that commute, on the way to work, listen to your great music, get pumped, relax. On the way home, listen to an audiobook. When you're at the gym, listen to an audiobook or a great podcast. You got to go for quality, not quantity. We only have so much time, but we can share it out amongst friends. I call it hashtag research because that's what it is. I go on Twitter, hashtag AI, hashtag mobile. You could do hashtag PM or project management and find out what people are tweeting. And it's like experts telling you and curating a list for you. So folks, you can find ways to reskill, and you're going to find that companies are making this a priority. Why? Because retraining is the key to retaining. What I tell companies is, You keep looking out here for SEO and data scientists and all that. We can't grow them. And the computers can't do that type of job. So you need to look at your talent pool and turn it into a talent pipeline, because we are about to go through a major talent drought. And this talent drought is going to easily span the next 20 years. This is good for you. Reskill, because it's a buyer's market on your behalf. And it's not just technology, folks. It's in project management, it's in operations, it's in marketing, it's across the board. Just in AI alone, basic AI, stuff you can learn in 3 months just to manage. They're saying millions of jobs are opening up by the end of the decade. So we need to fill the growing talent gap, but we also need to think this way. It's really easy, this is where people get scared. It's really easy to look at the past and say, okay, this job is going to go away. Folks, when bank tellers were replaced by ATMs in the 80s, what happened to the majority of those bank tellers was that they went up in their job so that they could do jobs like mortgages and financing, and they actually made more money and could give more one-on-one time. And I say this, when you ask your parents when you were 10, what's going to be the sexiest job title of 2021? Do you really think that they would say data scientist, SEO specialist? Folks, more jobs are created. So it's easy to see what happened, but it's hard to extrapolate forward. For every job the internet took away, it created 2. But we need to keep reskilling to make sure we're ready for those jobs. So we really want to look at being future ready. A big word that we techies use a lot, and we probably shouldn't, is future proof. Have you guys heard the word future? Okay. The real deal here is that you can't truly future proof. I just had a pandemic come out of nowhere and shake up things everywhere. You can't necessarily future proof, but you can future ready. We have enough going on in the papers every day, in the tweets, on Instagram, that we know a lot of where our world is headed in the near term. I said the near term, the next 10 years. That's near term for me. So we've got to future ready, not just our brands and our business models, but ourselves. And when I started reskilling executives 10 years ago, we were the biggest game in town. We made the New York Times. They were so excited. We had a mini MBA that you could get in a week or 3 months, depending upon how you wanted to go about it. We now have free resources through Coursera, through lynda.com, through Masterclass, all of these things to reskill. We have these certificate programs. What's so amazing about my pro bono work, which I actually really hope becomes 100% of my time over the next 10 years, is that I can actually change people's stations in lives. Because when we reskill them in under a year for under $3,000 and are able to give them entry-level jobs in cybersecurity or data analytics or basic machine learning, they can start an entry-level job for $50,000. Folks, that changes a station in life. And it's not just overlooked minorities. It's veterans. My God, the way we treat our veterans. They are top tech, top under pressure, and so much go into security because that's where they know to go. And yet all this technology in these jobs. Also, disabilities and the like. Folks, when you know something that others don't know, I promise you this. Gender, age, young or older, disabilities, color, even birth defects. I am a public speaker with a birth defect right on my face. Yep, cleft lip. But when you know something that someone else doesn't know, everything fades away because you have that higher ground. It's truly amazing when I'm asked, CK, how can I, as a minority that doesn't have a college degree, compete as a person of color in Silicon Valley? Wrong question. Build your own. Because the future is going to be Silicon Valleys all over the the world. That's what's truly amazing. So when we look at reskilling, what we're doing is we're investing in ourselves. I have never, not ever, faced a glass ceiling, and it's not because, well, I have my own company, but it's because I've always been in my industry. I've always stayed up to speed or ahead, and I put extra hours in that. So there hasn't been a glass ceiling. It hasn't been a boys' club for me. It hasn't been that way. And I gotta tell you, when I first started out, and I'm so proud that conferences have gotten this way, there were hardly any females at conferences, and the only bonus was there was no line at the ladies' room, right? But now there is a line, and now 50% of the people at the conferences in tech are female, and of all ages. It's really, really exciting. So we're looking at a heck of a lot of tech in a few years' time. So the question is, where do I go with that? That's something you look at on your own. Even in project management, you look at on your own. But the point is, the very same technologies, this I can promise to future ready you, the very same technologies that will modernize our companies will increase our value within them. You will not have a glass ceiling if you know something they don't know, or if you've stayed up to speed. And you will be able to increase your salary, increase your worth, whatever you reskill on. It doesn't have to be AI. I just want you to understand that we know for sure about the coming near future. So, there's also megatrends happening at the same time that these technologies are happening. I'm just going to give you an overview. This is what I usually speak on. But number one, we're going from the internet, how quaint that we sit here on our smartphones, the future's laughing at us, and we go online, and we go on these small screens, when the exact opposite, connecting the physical world, all objects, all products, all places. I call it the outer net because it's outside. Get it? I think it's catchy. I do think it's catchy. But that is where the future is going to be. So the next generation will not see a line of demarcation between going online and being offline. In fact, anything that's not smart, connected, and producing data, they'll see as broken. So we're going right now, we're in that middle where our sprinklers are connected and we have Ring doorbells and we have Nest thermostats, but we're going to a really smart world. So knowing that this megatrend is happening, and when I say megatrend, this is happening over the next 50 years. We right now have 50 billion connected devices. Mind-blowing, right? Chicken feed. We're gonna have 100 trillion connected devices by 2030. So we already know that. That means that opens up a lot of jobs in cybersecurity, eh? But it also opens up a lot of project management for a lot of new products and a lot of new processes. We also have the golden age of AI happening. We have AI that can help us everything from preventing disease, preventing terrorism, to now in California, I gotta think about wildfires, right? Do you know how we find out if we have a wildfire? No lie. A person sees it. But with AI, a startup called Descartes uses satellites that's constantly crunching image data and knows within 9 minutes if a fire starts. Bless, bless. Folks, that is really important because it saves lives. In fact, with AI and robots and the like, the next generation will be like, why did they send men and women into fires? Did they not understand that men and women and fires don't mix so well? Send the robots in. Doesn't take away any firemen or firewomen. In fact, they manage the effort. So AI is going to change a lot of things, and it's also going to, and I love this, do a lot of our busy work. Just so you know, in an average lifespan, we spend 6 months in traffic jams, 3 years driving. Women, we spend 3 years doing our hair and makeup. Gentlemen, you spend 4 years looking at us, so it kind of washes out. I know, it's like factoids. We spend 6 years doing chores. On my deathbed, I don't want to be like, I answered email and I had a clean house because, folks, 6 years, what could you do with that? I cannot increase time, but I can open it up for you. On average, we spend 70% of our time at work on administrative tasks, 10% on innovation. Let the robots, they don't mind. They're so nice. They work 24 hours, 7 days a week. Let them do the basic tasks. Let you work at the top of your talents. Third, the cobots setting us free, like I just explained. I call them cobots because collaborative robots, and it's nicer. But folks, basically 99% of your coworkers in about 10 years will be robots that you don't see. They'll be basic code, but we won't have to worry about it. Here's the beauty of AI and robotics and all that. We spend so much time inputting on phones that we get so little output, right? AI and all that takes the phone out of the equation so we can have more of this, right? Thank you. And fourth, Web 3.0, write this one down. The web is going to change more over the next 10 years, than it has the past 25 years. The web is by and largely the same, as it was when it started out, but what's happening now? Conversational technology, gestural technology, going from smartphones to a smart thing of an outer net, right? Having contextual conversations, right? It used to be that the web was the same for everyone. Now my experience is different than your experience and your experience. So Web 3.0, holography, spatial, augmented reality, it's really cool, is going to become much friendlier. I put it this way. For the last 25 years, we have been fixated on the web. It is high time that the web focused on us and helped us do more of what we love to do. So all of these technologies and all of these trends mean really, really, really busy time in every profession, but definitely a profession that ensures complexity is taken care of, reduces chaos, gets things done on time, and hopefully on budget. So the future looks good. Looks busy too. So learning is an investment in your own worth. Make lifelong learning. Even if you just commit to reading a book a month. My next book is exactly what the next speaker is going to be talking about. I am always finding new things. But even if you just take one Coursera once a quarter, okay, that you can find, that you can invest in. This is investing in your own future. And it's cool. It keeps you fresh. So the last part I want to go through is the culmination of all these steps, right? We've reassessed, reimagined, reskill. We're coming to reinvention. For me, I reinvent around new technologies or new trends, right? But it'll be different for each of us. But when we reinvent, I'm saying we're always inventing, reinventing, and of course, repeat. So what I said earlier, life isn't about finding yourself. The quote is, life is about creating yourself. But success is truly reliant on reinventing yourself. It's actually a module I want to start giving at Rutgers because I think it's so important that we teach not only the core lessons, but how we're going to have to continue to learn and relearn and reinvent. And we're really arming executives and students with the tools they need to do so. I love this quote. Earlier I said, we're not the same people we were when we were 20 and 10 and 5 and 15, right? I love this from the philosopher Derek Parfit, I think. We humans are not a consistent identity moving through time. Nope. But a chain of successive selves, each tangentially linked to and yet distinct from the previous and subsequent ones. Actually, they find that the reason why younger people don't save enough is because the older person is such a familiar stranger to them. It's a successive self. So I look at so many things that I was so involved in, or what was a priority to me and excited about, and I see how life is a chain of successive selves. You know, the quote, life has to be lived going forwards, but it can only make sense looking backwards and connecting the dots. At this ripe age of 52, I'm able now to start connecting dots and say, yes, I've had some success because I've been able to be in the right field at the right time, right? But the only reason, otherwise, I am a starving artist, folks. The only reason is because I've continued and continued. Invent, reinvent, repeat. I can already tell you climate tech, nanotechnology, quantum computing. This is some really heavy stuff I have to learn, but I'm going to make these colleagues. This is where, along with AI, this is probably where my next 3 to 5 years is. And at any point in time, a new one can come to the fore. So, we have an understanding of a way to reinvent ourselves. First, we have to get really analytical. And again, this is the hardest step. And the reason it's the hardest step is because when we see all those things that need changing, eek, I'd rather not, I want to resist. Take it one bite at a time and understand it's so much easier now. There are so many resources. And you'll be amazed when you make friends across the world how much they love their profession and are willing to give you advice for free because it's their passion. And you can find them using social media as business media. Then reimagine. Remember, creativity gives us control because we're not passively adapting, we're seeking change, right? And we're reshaping the future and our role within it. Reskilling. Lifelong learning is a lifelong advantage. And finally, reinventing. Now, reinvention also removes the risk and fear of what? Extinction. It's always like we're fearful of, oh my gosh, what will come new? Will I still be marketable? But folks, continuing to make that a priority really removes that risk and fear. So, big point here, reinvention is the difference between, and this is a good quote to use with your management, between the companies and careers of today and those of a fast approaching tomorrow. Remember, when you're advocating for yourself and within your companies, this whole process of reinvention, use the pandemic alone. That accelerated trends and compressed timelines in a time that we already live in a time of permanent revolution. I used to say permanent revolution. Now, possibly, I used to use permanent tech revolution. Now, racial and social justice, all of the climate change, we live in a time of permanent revolution. That's another argument to use. So don't just adapt to change, get ahead of it. How? Make reinvention a strategy for success. Folks, the first time is sort of the hardest, but it's the most rewarding. And like I said, the most rewarding part of my job is when students and those with pro bono come up to me and say, CK, I'm no longer scared, or I get how this relates to me, or I feel relevant at whatever age. My oldest student, 85. My youngest, 10 years old, and he's such a protege that like he's not allowed to present before me because he's crazy. That being said, do I have 5 minutes left?
You have 15.
I have 15 minutes left, so I want to do a couple things. I want to see if there are any questions from the audience. Remember, you're going to get these slides. Anything you want to talk about, any yeah buts, I want to open it up. And I may even be able to give us a little time back too, but I first want to see any questions. First about the presentation and the subject matter. Does it make sense to you why this is important for your careers and your companies? Are you just saying that to be nice? I hope it makes sense to you. I'm kidding. Do you find, show of hands, who here finds that their company is putting a high priority on reinventing and reimagining? Show of hands. Nice. Who here feels like, and I won't tell, my company can do better? No. Who here feels, of those, who here feels comfortable approaching management, your boss, and saying, you know what? We need to do better here in order to ensure that we're a company of tomorrow. Okay. Okay, good. Okay, questions on reinvention? Questions on technology? Is anyone in the middle of a okay. You in the back, please, with the cool tattoo. I need to see your ink. Okay.
Thanks for the presentation. I thought I wrote down lots of notes, lots of good takeaways.
Yep, and you'll get this, no worries.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm curious, with so many things coming up in the future,
Yep.
do you have any recommendations on how to focus on
Yeah.
on what you're most interested in?
Okay, so this is a question you should ask me literally every year because that's how much things change. For me, and for the outlook right now, and this is on a global level, we Americans, we're wonderful, but we really get isolated. The rest of the world is not waiting for us. They're just going, okay, move at the pace you need to move at. They're excited about our innovators, but they're also seeing some congestion. I'll tell you, AI and automation. AI, because you're making, our computers today are as stupid as they were yesterday. But with artificial intelligence, we're able to increase the value there, and we're able to make more intelligent processes and products in companies. Automation, that whole 6 years of chores and the like, that's huge right now. Because what we're doing is we're asking people, like at Mass Mutual, on little sticky notes, oh so low tech, what are all the tasks you do at work? And they write them down. Weeks we made them do this. Now, tell me the task you hate and you love. And 90% of the tasks they hate can be automated. So automation is huge to look at, and it's really hard sometimes. Does anyone here remember? I know checks are so 20th century, but heck, if I get a check, it's a good day at my little nano business. Anyone here remember when they first used an app to scan a check? No, stop. How friggin' amazing was it? Okay? Just think about this. This is a really good example. And then you're like, what do I do with the check? And will the money really get there? What was so transformative was the fact that we removed friction. Anything and everything that removes friction. Because before then, we had to literally get in a car, waste fossil fuels, look for parking places, get in line for the ATM, reverse it, wait 3 freaking days. I still don't get it. Anyhow, the point is that those friction-filled processes, making things less complex, wins the day every single day. Blockchain, too. And it ain't just about cryptos, although cryptos are cool. It's actually about all the apps you can do. Remember on the way here, we took an Uber? Lovely Uber partner here, the next speaker. I'll tell you something. What did I say to the Uber driver? I said, look into blockchains. She said, for cryptos? I said, no. Look into blockchain applications that remove unnecessary intermediaries. Because how much is Uber taking? Love Uber, but how much is it taking right now of the till? And she goes, I'm not sure. I know in other cities, it's about 30%. I said, when these drivers unionize, it'll be 5%. Why? Because it just needs to fund the company. Also, it'll bring 2 billion of the world's unbanked online, which is amazing. Like we have 4 billion people we need to open up to. And companies will say, but they don't have a lot of money, CK. There's 4 billion of them. Figure out a business model. A lot of companies are already doing it. So AI, anything automation, anything that removes friction. Who here can tell me that's gone to Disney World? Not even with the Magic Band, which is really funny that all y'all worry about getting surveilled, and yet we're literally chipped. at Disney World. It's the biggest surveillance state in the United States. I'm fine with it. Folks, who here can tell me at Disney World what is the #1 feature on the app? Of the Fast Pass, you got it. Okay, the lines. What about the lines?
Oh, the time.
Wait times. You think I'm high energy now? I'm 6. I'm in line for Space Mountain. My dad, is it time yet? 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 I literally bounced off walls. I have no idea that this actually became a career where I had high energy was a good thing. But anyhow, this is before like Adderall and Ritalin and everything. I bounced off walls. We didn't know what the wait times were. It removed friction. It removed a mystery. So there are no small answers when it comes to tech, but I'll tell you, anything that removes friction. Automation, AI, removing unnecessary intermediaries, even young darlings like Uber. They are an intermediary, right? Those are the big ones to focus on. And how that affects your job, how that affects the products of the company and their business model. Climate tech is also big.
It's a question from online.
Yes.
How do we get corporate to pay for professional group memberships?
How do we get corporate to pay for professional group memberships? We show them the data. I love when the data's in my favor. Folks, we are about to go through globally a talent drought of 87 million jobs. We cannot fill fast enough. So all of a sudden, we're starting to get the power, and we have more value to our companies, which we love, if we increase our skills. So we show them the data. We show them the talent drought. We show them how easy it is for businesses to rise or fall, right, in record time. And that all of a sudden, paying for professional memberships and all that isn't so big. It's actually, you also want to show that companies in the Fortune 500 are doing it left, right, and center. We're changing the name Learning and Development to Learning and Transformation. Also, feel free to use CK's presentation. And I also have some other stuff at allthingsck.com, free to you. I don't even make you fill out a form, because who loves filling out a form, right? No one. So that's one way.
What workplace transformation do you see becoming permanent that's happened during the pandemic? And what impact will it have on work in the U.S.?
Okay, so one thing I find right away is that companies are having to review their processes and cut down on bureaucracy. Because if they could do it during the pandemic, they need to do it going forward. Because we are in survival of the fastest. Second, the future of the workplace. I think hybrid models are best. Working at the company and working at home. Again, I'm seeing a lot of people that are not going back to work or quitting their jobs because they're like, I can get a job elsewhere. So that's 2. But 3, burnout. Because it's not work from home, it's always at work. So we need to be careful of burnout because quality of life has become really important to us. And to see with our loved ones and the like. So those are 3 right there, but there's like a ton more. Reach out to me. Please, and I'll repeat the question, worry not.
Okay, do you have any thoughts or comments on balancing continual reinvention and reimagining with change fatigue?
Do I have any thoughts on reevaluating or balancing? Balancing constant reinvention with fatigue, absolutely, positively. I have actually lowered my workload in the last 2 years because I was feeling fatigued. Well, the last year because of the pandemic, the last 3 years. And I've actually started some exercises for myself. Literally, I monotask a lot of the day. I take half the day and I just turn my email away, I turn my phone away, and I monotask because humans aren't meant to monotask. When we are interrupted by anything, this is why I want AIs and big data to take care of more of the little things, it takes us up to 20 minutes to refocus, and perhaps an hour for working on something that's really important. So I'm going to say that I see this as a huge industry that's coming, and I see this as a big balancing act with companies for the next 10 years, because it is huge. And they're actually starting to say, we're going to give you 20 personal days. And I'm so thankful that mental health and cognitive overload, it's not just info overload, it's not just device overload, it's cognitive overload, is actually becoming quite a theme across the news. It's actually an interesting area to go into as well. Could be money making. Right, I need to come right over here, and then I'll come right back to you.
So my daughter is going to be a junior at CU Boulder, and she's kind of adrift of, what am I going to do? I'm getting a degree in sociology. I might want law. I might want this.
Yeah.
What would you tell somebody her age? She just turned 20. She's finishing her last 2 years of college. What would you tell them?
I was a liberal arts major. I was a philosophy major. Actually, it probably helps me more than anything. And then with my MBA, I went into, we called it interactive at that time. Oh, how quaint. Anyhow, I would tell her to, one, make continual learning a priority. Like I said, you can do a lot of online, but she needs to experiment with different jobs. I mean, really experiment. I mean, I thought for sure I was going to be a marketing director in a traditional industry of real estate. And then all of a sudden this little internet thing came. But I kept my ear to the ground, right? And I would go to professional organizations and I said, I think there's something there. And my real estate buddies were like, there was something there. So she has got to, and congratulations, she has got to try things for herself, but to make learning a priority. When I was 21 for my first job, and I had a cute little briefcase and all that stuff that's so like old age, I remember asking the gentleman, what will there be insofar as extra training professionally? And he looked at me, no lie, and said, you just came out of 15, 18 years of learning, now it's time to get to work. And my response was, but why would I want to stop now? So, to her, one, experiment. Two, the job she has, make sure she asks, what kind of reskilling and training programs do you have, or what kind of budget do I get for that? And early on, start meeting with professional groups. Fine. If she's the young gal in the crowd, she'll get a ton of mentors. And to be really damn good at AI, and she'll make $1 billion. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, one more question over here because I think I'm getting time and I want to make sure I'm not hitting to Jess's time.
This is another online question
Thank
from
you.
one of our attendees. What kind of revolution do you see for healthcare?
Oh God. I love this question. This is definitely my last question. Okay, so there is a huge revolution globally. I call it high-tech health. Also, you can learn a lot by the hashtag health tech. Here's the deal, ladies and gentlemen. We know more about the health of our cars right now, because we have a dashboard, than we do our very own bodies. It's funny, but not really. Do you know how we know we're going to have a heart attack these days? Answer, by having the damn heart attack. Folks, the most important place that technology can go is within our very own bodies. And everyone goes, oh, I'm freaked about that. And I say, you know what? Survival rate for ovarian cancer, stage 1, 95%. Survival rate for ovarian cancer found at stage 3, 5%. Before we're able to truly eliminate cancer, we need to find it and identify it in stage 1, where literally a round of antibiotics, in a sense, could take care of it. Also, I go to the doctor and they make sure my blood pressure is 120/80. Spoiler alert, that might be high for me, low for you, perfect for you, because we don't have the longitudinal data. The most important relationship we have is with our very own bodies. So, between data, between AI, being able to assess that, and between being able to understand and advocate for our health, it is a huge revolution. It's also a messy one, but it's a huge revolution. Also in robotics, what's amazing right now, we have doctors in San Diego operating on children with terrible birth defects in Sri Lanka. And what's happening there is not just the doctor that's operating, that's getting the child well, he or she is training that whole team on the ground. That is tremendous. So there's so much going on in health tech, and feel free to reach out to me for more. I'm at ck@allthingsck.com. Get it? ck@allthingsck.com. I love talking about this stuff. But again, and I'm going to end here, it's not just about the technology. It's not just about the trends. It's about understanding that we are in a time, it's really a renaissance. When humanity looks back 75 years from now, they'll say this is a renaissance, a rebirth, a reimagining. But it's important to invest in ourselves. It's important to make that a priority. Find pockets of time. Advocate for your management. You literally have enough examples now of old world and new world companies. And understand, this will only help your worth because we are going through a talent drought and it's going to get higher. So we can get what we've needed by doing this. I thank you all for letting me have all this time. And thank you online.